Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series. Okay, and today we'll be discussing the topic control and coordination. So some of the topics we have already discussed in the previous lecture. So we have discussed about the coordination, how can we define the coordination, and a coordination is required between the two organ systems and then only a particular system or a particular process can be done. Then we talked about the coordination in the plants, where we learned about how the movement in plants takes place, okay, and what are the external and the internal stimuli to which the plant respond. And then we also studied about the plant hormones, also known as the phytohormones. So we studied about their discovery, and we also studied about the functions of these hormones. Okay, so in this lecture, we'll be studying about the control and coordination in the animals. Okay, so let's start with this lecture. So coordination, we were talking about coordination in plants. Now we're talking about coordination in animals. So coordination in animals is brought about by the secretions of the endocrine gland. Okay, so coordination, you already know the definition of the coordination now. So the coordination between the different organ system or the working together simultaneously of the different organ system, these are known as the this is known as the coordination. Example, I've given you the coordination between the digestive system and the excretory system. So I've given you the example in the previous lecture. So there is a coordination between the digestive system, okay, and the excretory system. So what happens? The digestive system, it will digest the food material, and then the absorption will be done, and the unwasted or the undigested food is then eliminated out to the body through the excretory system. Okay, so there is a coordination between these two organ systems. Now, there is a coordination between the different organs also. So if we talk about the digestive system, so digestive system is consist of two parts, or it is made up of two components. One is the alimentary canal, okay, and then another one is the digestive gland. Alright, so digestive system comprises of alimentary canal and the digestive gland. Now, if we talk about the components of the alimentary canal, okay, or what are the parts of the alimentary canal, or what are the organs involved in the alimentary canal? So first one is the mouth. So food is taken inside the body through mouth, and this process is known as ingestion. Then the mouth will enter into the buccal cavity. Then the food enters into the esophagus. Alright, so here simultaneous digestion is also happening. So digestion starts in the mouth. After esophagus, the food will reach the stomach. Okay, in stomach again there will be digestion. Then the semi-digested food, it will enter into the small intestine. Okay, and then later from small intestine, the undigested food enters into the large intestine. Okay, it enters into the large intestine, and then the waste products, they are eliminated out of the body through the anus. So you can see there is a coordination between these organs also: stomach, small intestine, large intestine. But if there is no coordination between these organs, then the digestion process will not be completed. Clear? So here the undigested food or the waste material, they are eliminated through the anus. So we can also say digestive system is in coordination with the excretory system. So this coordination is very necessary to complete the processes, and all these processes, they are going on simultaneously. Clear? Now, we are saying that the coordination in animal is brought about by the secretion of the endocrine glands. Now, what are the secretions of the endocrine glands? These are hormones. Hormones are nothing but these are what? These are the chemical substances. Okay? These are chemical substances, okay, that helps in the regulation of a lot of processes in the body which are vital for the survival of the organisms. Okay, and what are endocrine glands? You must be knowing about the endocrine glands. All right. Endocrine glands, what is the primary role? Secretion of the hormones. And they are also known as the ductless gland. They are known as the ductless gland, means they directly secrete their secretions in the blood. All right. They secrete the hormones. You can say the secretions is known as hormones directly into the blood. So there are no ducts present, and the hormones are directly secreted into the blood. Clear? Now let's move on. Now, any chemical substance which is formed, which is formed in the tissues of the endocrine gland and are carried by the blood to the other parts of the body for its specific action is termed as hormone. So what are hormones? Hormones are the chemical substance. Okay, so what are the features of the hormone? If we talk about the hormone, first of all, you should remember hormones are, these are chemical substances. These are chemical substances. Then they are produced by the endocrine gland. Okay. Then, okay, they are transported by the blood, or they are carried by the blood. They are carried by blood to various organs, or you can say the target site. Okay, target organ or the target site. Okay, and then when they reach the target organs, then they do their specific actions. Clear? Now, as organ which respond to such a hormone is known as the target organ. Clear? Now, let's discuss about the characteristic of the hormone. What are the unique characteristic of the hormones? So, hormones, we know they are the secretions of the endocrine gland. They are produced at a place and act on the target organ. So, suppose they are produced in one gland, such as the pituitary gland. It is a endocrine gland. So, it is produced at one place and then it acts on the target organ, which is mainly away from their source. Okay, so they are carried along with the blood. Okay, so they are produced at one place and they are carried, okay, along with the blood to the target organs, which is away from the source. Okay, or away from the place where they are synthesized. Now they are poured directly into the bloodstream. Okay, because they are secreted from the endocrine glands, and endocrine glands, they secrete their secretions directly into the blood. Now, these hormones, they are required in very small quantities. Okay, this is also a characteristic feature. Only a small quantity is enough to generate the response. Clear? Now, they are specific in their functions. Okay, so they have specific functions. We'll talk about these functions in the upcoming slides. Okay, and chemically they are mainly proteins. Okay, we were talking about hormones are chemical substances. So what is the biochemical nature of these hormones? So they are proteins. Like enzymes are also proteins, hormones are also proteins. Okay, mainly they are proteins. Now, Some of them may also be amino acid and steroids, like corticosteroids. So these are the steroids that are involved in the immune system, as well as the generation of anti-inflammatory response. Okay, and they also play a role in the stress response. So we are talking about corticosteroids, which are a kind of steroids. Some of the hormones can also be amino acids. So proteins, they are made up of amino acids. Okay, so some amino acids also act as proteins. Now, they are harmful if present in less concentration, or they are also harmful if they are present in excess amounts. Okay, so if the hormone concentration is less, or less amount of hormone is being produced, then what happens? There will be some changes in the body. Okay, and if the hormone is produced in excess amount, then also there will be some changes in the body. So body will not be normal, it will be abnormal. It will behave abnormally. This point also we will discuss when we study about the functions of the hormones. Now, hormones are immediately destroyed after their action is over. Okay, so they are short-lived, you can say. They do their function and then they are destroyed. Now let's talk about the feedback mechanism. So first of all, how can we define feedback mechanism? So it is a regulatory process by which the output or response of the system influences the input or the stimulus, either by amplifying it. So if they amplify it, then we call it as the positive feedback, or counteracting it. So this is known as the negative feedback. Now, in order to maintain stability or achieve a desired outcome within the ecosystem, within the system. So because of the, so what is feedback mechanism? First you can write, it is a regulatory mechanism, or it is a regulatory process. Okay. Now, either it can amplify that process. Okay. Either it can amplify the process. And what does amplify? The output or the product. Output, what is the output? You can say the product which is formed. So if you imagine a reaction, so the product of the reaction, it can either amplify that reaction or it can suppress that reaction. So if the product amplify the reaction, then it is known as the positive feedback. Okay, so it is a regulatory process by which the output or the response of the system or the reaction influences the input, okay, means the substrate or the stimulus, either by amplifying it. So if it is amplified, then we call it as the, if it is amplified, then we call it as the positive feedback. If it is suppressed, okay, then we call it as the negative feedback. Okay, negative feedback mechanism. Clear? And it is done in order to maintain the stability. Okay, this feedback mechanism, okay, what is the role? It helps to maintain the stability or to achieve a desired outcome within the system. Clear? Now, the endocrine glands, they interact with each other so that secretions of one gland may stimulate or depress the activity of another. Okay, so here one gland or the secretion of one gland may either stimulate, means activate, or it can suppress the activity of another gland. Now, the amount of hormone released by an endocrine gland is determined by the body's need at any given time. So according to the need of the body, these hormones are released by these glands, these endocrine glands. Okay. Now, let's have a look at the example of this feedback mechanism. So we'll have a look at the negative feedback. We'll look at the negative feedback mechanism. Okay. So the hypophysis. Hypophysis is a term used for pituitary gland. So you can say another term used for the pituitary gland. So hypophysis produces a hormone that stimulates the thyroid to produce its hormone. So thyroid produces two hormones, thyroxine as well as calcitonin. All right. So a hormone is released from the pituitary gland, you can say, which is the hypophysis. Okay, this hormone stimulates the thyroid to produce its hormone. Now what happens in turn, the thyroid secretion, it induces the hypophysis to produce less thyroid stimulating hormone. So you can say hypophysis, okay, it is producing, or its secretion, it promotes the secretion of hormones from the thyroid. But what happens? The thyroid in turn what do? It secretes some chemicals that induces the hypophysis to produce less thyroid secreting hormone. Okay, so this is known as the negative feedback mechanism. Here, the product of one is suppressing the secretion of the another. So this feedback helps bring about a steady state in the body, which is called as the homeostasis. So maintenance of the steady state, this is known as homeostasis. Clear? Now let's talk about the various endocrine glands that are present in the human body. So these are pituitary gland, also known as the hypophysis. Then we have the pineal gland, then the parathyroid gland, thymus gland, pancreas, ovaries. So all these are the endocrine gland, and then they all comprise the endocrine system. Some other are the thyroid gland, adrenal gland, and the testes. Clear? Now this is an image showing you the various endocrine glands. So here you can see this is the pituitary gland. Here we have the pineal gland. Okay, this is the hypothalamus, which is present in the brain. Okay, this is the thyroid gland as well as the parathyroid gland here. Then here is the thymus gland. Here you can see the pancreas. Okay, and then we have the adrenal gland, which is present above the kidneys. Then in the females we have the ovary, and in the male consists of the testes. So these are all the endocrine glands, and all these glands, they secrete hormones directly into the blood. Clear? Now we'll talk about each of these hormones and what are their secretions and the functions of their secretions. Now let's talk about pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is also known as the hypophysis. So it is a small ovoid structure attached to the base of the brain, which is known as the hypothalamus. So this is attached, pituitary gland is attached to the hypothalamus by a stalk which is known as the infundibulum, which is placed just behind the optic chiasmata, where the optic nerve from each eye meet. Okay, so this is clear, the location of the pituitary gland. Now the pituitary gland is also known as the master gland. Why? Because it controls other endocrine glands. Clear? Now this gland consists of 3 lobes: anterior, middle, as well as the posterior lobe, and all these 3 lobes secrete different kind of hormones. Now each lobe of pituitary gland secrete different sets of hormones. Now let's have a look at these hormones. So this is an image showing you the location of the pituitary gland. So pituitary gland is located here. All right, this is the hypothalamus. Okay, so this is the hypothalamus enlarged. Okay, and then there is a stalk known as infundibulum. So the pituitary gland, okay, this is attached with the hypothalamus, which is present in the brain, and it is attached through a stalk known as infundibulum. So this is infundibulum, and this is the posterior lobe as well as the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. Clear? So this is the location of the pituitary gland. Now let's talk about the hormones of the anterior pituitary. First is the growth hormone. Now this hormone promotes and regulates the process of growth in the body, and its deficiency during the childhood can lead to dwarfism. Okay, means the child will be dwarfed if there is a lack of the growth hormone. And if there is more secretion of this hormone, then it leads to gigantism, when the person or the human being is extremely tall. Okay, so we were discussing in the previous slides that if the hormones are present in less amount, then also the human body will behave abnormally. If they are present in more amount also, then also the human body will behave, okay, abnormally. Now, adrenocorticotropic hormones, ACTH, this regulates the activities of the adrenal cortex. Okay, it mainly stimulates the adrenal cortex to secrete corticosteroid hormone. So corticosteroid hormone, I've told you in the previous slide that these hormones are basically or mainly they are proteins, but some hormones can be amino acid as well as steroids. So one example of steroid hormone is corticosteroid. So these hormones, these are involved in various physiological processes, including stress response, immune response, regulation of the inflammation, okay, carbohydrate metabolism, as well as the protein metabolism. Okay, these are the functions of the corticosteroid hormone. Clear? They also act as the anti-inflammatory agents. So now we can synthesize this steroids, or we can synthesize these corticosteroids, and they have been used as a medicine also. So artificially we are synthesizing it as and we are using it as a medicine, and it generates the anti-inflammatory response. So these are also used in rheumatoid arthritis as well. Now next is the thyroid stimulating hormone, also known as the TSH. Okay, as is clear from its name, it controls the functioning of the thyroid gland, and it stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete a hormone known as thyroxine. Now this thyroid, it secretes two hormones. One is the thyroxine, another one is the calcitonin. We'll discuss about the functions of these two, okay, in the upcoming slides. Now let's talk. Next one is the follicle stimulating hormone. So this hormone known as the FSH, it stimulates the production of the gametes. Okay, it stimulates the development of the ovarian follicles in the female, and its equivalent in the males is it stimulates the sperm production. Clear? So this is the role of the follicle stimulating hormone. The next one is the luteinizing hormone. So this luteinizing hormone, all right, it causes ovulation and formation of the corpus luteum. Okay, what are the functions? It causes ovulation, this is the function, and also helps in the formation of the corpus luteum, which secretes progesterone. So corpus luteum is a structure that secretes progesterone in the females and stimulates the testes to produce testosterone in the males. Okay, so progesterone and the testosterone, these are the hormones, okay, present in the females and the males respectively. And the other one is the luteotrophic hormone. Okay, so this was luteinizing hormone. Then we have the luteotrophic hormone. So this hormone is also known as the prolactin. And this hormone stimulates the growth of the mammary glands during the pregnancy, and it promotes the lactation after the delivery. Now prolactin level rise during the pregnancy and is very high during the lactation. Okay, because it promotes the lactation. Clear? Now let's talk about the hormones of the middle pituitary gland. So first one is the melanocyte stimulating hormone. So this is the only hormone secreted by middle pituitary, which controls the growth as well as the development of the melanocyte, which are responsible for the skin color. Skin color is based on the presence of the melanin. Okay, so melanocyte stimulating hormone. Okay, this is the only hormone that is secreted by the middle pituitary, and it controls the growth and development of the melanocytes. Now we will talk about the hormones of the posterior pituitary. So first one is the vasopressin, also known as the antidiuretic hormone, ADH. So this is very important. Okay, now this causes the reabsorption of the water into the blood from the collecting tubules of the kidneys, thereby concentrating the urine and reducing its volume. Okay, so this is the role of vasopressin or the anti-diuretic hormone. So kidneys, they are made up of the nephrons. So nephrons, these are the structural and the functional unit of the kidney. Okay, and what happens? Nephrons, what are the part of the nephrons? It is the Bowman's capsule, which is a cup-shaped structure. Okay, and this consists of the glomerulus. We have the Bowman's capsule. Then Bowman's capsule leads to the proximal convoluted tubule. Okay, it leads to proximal convoluted tubule. Then after proximal convoluted tubule or proximal convoluted tubule leads into Henle's loop, also known as loop of Henle. Then we have the distal convoluted tubule, and then distal convoluted tubule leads to collecting tubules. And finally, everything or the urine is drained into the collecting duct. Clear? So there is a reabsorption of water from the collecting tubules, and these hormones, vasopressin, this helps in the reabsorption of water into the blood from the collecting tubules. Okay. So I'll draw a rough diagram of the nephron. So this is the Bowman's capsule, which is a C-shaped structure. Inside the Bowman's capsule, here you have this mesh of capillaries known as the glomerulus. Then this Bowman's capsule leads into the proximal convoluted tubule, and then we have the Henle's loop, and then Henle's loop will further lead to the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, this is the distal convoluted tubule, and then in the end is present the collecting duct. Okay, this is the collecting duct. This is the Bowman's capsule. This is the proximal convoluted tubule. This is the Henle's loop. This is the distal convoluted tubule, and this one is the collecting duct. All right. Next is the oxytocin. So oxytocin, this hormone stimulates the uterus contraction at the time of the childbirth and causes release of milk from the mammary glands. It is also known as the birth hormone or milk ejecting hormone. So next is the pineal gland. So it is the small gland, which is reddish gray in color, about the size of the pea, attached to the roof of the third ventricle of the brain. I've shown in the image the location of the pineal gland. Now it contributes in regulating the gonadal development, and also it controls the development and concentration of the melanin. Now let's talk about the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland consists of two lobes joined together by the isthmus. It is situated in the lower part of the neck. When enlarged, it forms the goiter. Okay, so goiter is a condition where there is a abnormal, structure of the thyroid. All right, it can be due to the hypothyroidism or as well as the hypothyroidism. And in goiter, what happens? The thyroid is of abnormal structure. Now, there are two hormones which are secreted by the thyroid gland. One is thyroxine, another one is calcitonin. And we'll discuss about the roles of these hormones in the next session. Okay, so in this session, we studied about the endocrine glands, we studied about the hormones, and then I've told you what are the various endocrine glands present in the humans. Okay, we have studied roles of some of the endocrine gland and we'll be studying the roles of the rest of the endocrine glands in the next session. Thank you very much for listening.